Welcome to From Funding to Fame. Each episode, we sit down with founders, investors, and experts to discuss the stories, strategies, and insights behind investing and fundraising in Canada's private markets. I'm your host, Trieste Redding, Chief Growth Officer at FrontFundr. My journey with FrontFundr began as an investor, and now I'm thrilled to help founders raise capital while showing more Canadians how they can invest in the startups and growth stage companies shaping our future. This podcast episode features conversations about a business's current operations and future plans, and as a result may contain forward-looking information. There can be no assurance that forward-looking information will prove to be accurate, as actual results and future events could differ materially from those anticipated in such statements. Accordingly, listeners should not place undue reliance on forward-looking information. Today we are here with the CEO and co-founder of Triarchy, Adam Taubenfligel. Triarchy is a family-owned, award-winning, sustainable denim brand that is redefining the fashion industry through innovation, circularity, and responsible production practices. Since launching in 2018, the company has pioneered the world's first plastic-free stretch denim and has just become the first brand to introduce fully digitally dyed denim, a process which eliminates water and toxic chemicals from the denim making process entirely. Here are some highlights. Triarchy has remained independent with no outside investment to date. They're the recipient of the 2018 and 2024 Canadian Arts and Fashion Sustainability Awards and the 2018 H&M Sustainability Award. They've been featured in top publications including Vogue, WWD, Fast Company, National Geographic, Forbes, and Vogue Business. In 2022, Triarchy introduced the world's first plastic-free stretch denim and presented this technology at the United Nations in 2024. Their products, sold through Holt Renfrew, Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman, Harrods, and Revolve, exceeded over $1 million USD in sales in 2022, and they have a growing customer base of over 8,700 D2C customers and over 95 wholesale accounts. Hi, Adam. Thanks so much for being here today. Welcome to From Funding to Fame. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. Very well. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. Really excited to have you on the podcast. This is actually the first episode we've done in a little while, kind of on hiatus
Yes.
since the New Year break. So very excited to chat with you today. As we kick things off, would just love it if you could introduce yourself a little bit and maybe tell us kind of what your career has looked like so far on the road to creating Triarchy.
For sure. So my name's Adam Taubenfligel, and I'm one of three co-founders of Triarchy. My brother, sister, and I started the company as a vehicle to show the denim industry that we can have the jeans that we all know and love and have known and loved our whole lives without all of the horrible and harmful byproducts that have always gone into making that garment. The denim industry, aside from leather, is the most overconsumptive when it comes to petrochemicals, crude oil based plastics, and water consumption. So even though we often identify jeans with easy breezy, vintage, lovely, behind the curtain, it's none of those things until Triarchy. So we've spent the last 9 years pioneering a ton of new technologies that had never before come to market, such as plastic-free stretch denim. We're the only brand that has an organic alternative to crude oil-based stretch. And so that's not sure if was a direct answer to your question, but
No, appreciate that. Yeah, good getting some more insight into the company. I know there's, like you said, a few co-founders on the journey with you as well. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about kind of what your career looked like prior and maybe what your role is with
for
Triarchy as well,
sure.
alongside your other co-founders.
I started in denim in Italy. I worked at a denim factory about an hour southeast of Rome that was responsible for doing denim brands for other fashion houses. So if a fashion house wanted to add denim, they would basically license their product to the factory. The factory would make the jeans. So my education came on the factory floor. That's where I was introduced to it all. I started seeing that the factory was carrying quite a burden and having to create these collections for other brands. So I suggested to them, why don't you start your own denim
Mhm.
brand because you have the factory and you have to pay the marketing expenses anyway. So they asked me to help them find a designer to do this. And instead, I went to Paris for 6 weeks and taught myself how to use Illustrator and design them a collection and brought it back and said they're either going to laugh at me or buy it. And it was the latter. So we developed that collection together and brought it to market right as the economy in Italy went bust, and they had to close many of their factories. And it was at that time that I took the sample sets back with me to Canada and sat down with my brother and sister and said, I just did about a year's worth of work on all of this, and do you guys want to turn it into a brand? And my brother was just finishing business school. My sister was modeling at the time. So there were a lot of synergies within what we were all doing that kind of made sense in that. And so I roped them into it, and here we still are.
Oh, I love that story. It's such a true entrepreneurial journey to be like, hey, there's a clear opportunity here. You've got the facility, and then go out, do the designs yourself, come back. That's incredible. You mentioned as well that it's been a 9-year journey to this point. So maybe you can walk us through what some of those early days at Triarchy were like as you were, figuring out kind of the brand's positioning, how you were going to do things differently. What did that process of getting started look like for you?
Yeah, initially it was just really taking that work that had been done in Italy and turning it into a brand. Triarchy, the name we arrived at because a triarchy is a government with three rulers or a kingdom with three rulers, and there's three of us, so it kind of made sense. And our last name starts with a T, so it really ticked all the boxes. But after about a year or two of doing this small production in Los Angeles, it's really difficult to see the harmful impact of production when you're doing it at such a small scale because you're in small shops, you're in small laundries, and it's all pretty, like sure, you have to wash jeans, we get that. But then I started doing additional design work for a company in China, which had me going over to China to see the production. And when I was doing that, is really when I became familiarized with large scale production. Because even in Italy, it's not gigantic. It's big, but
Hmm.
it's not. What I saw in Italy completely floored me, or sorry, in China completely floored me, like a football field of washing machines just
Wow.
going full blast all day long. And it was on those trips that I just started asking myself, is the aspiration of myself and of us and of our brand to occupy a facility like this? Like, is that
Hmm.
the goal? We want to grow the brand so that we can consume all these resources and then dump them out into the planet. And I was like, honestly, no. Like, the world doesn't need another denim brand. The world doesn't need more people creating this waste. So really, if Triarchy is going to continue and if we're going to do what we love, it has to be as a vehicle to show we can do it better. I had no idea what that meant. This was before sustainability was a buzzword.
Hmm.
And so, but we did decide to take the brand offline, sell the remainder of our inventory that we had over the course of a year while we retooled and figured out how to do this better. And it was during that time that I spent a lot of time educating myself on what sustainability was, what it wasn't, and then going through tons of different vendors and factories and relationships to see what the understanding was within the industry because a lot of other people kind of did know, didn't know, were just feeling it out.
Yeah.
So tons of trial and error. But then it did lead us to finding partners that we manufacture with still to this day because it really became about relationships and about understanding the types of people who really do care about
Hmm.
making better products and ones who do lean on greenwashing quite a bit. And I don't always think greenwashing is a malicious thing. I just think sometimes the lack of education means that you think you're doing something good when you're not. And we went through a lot of that stuff too. Like I adopted a ton of practices that at face value and at the time I was like, oh, this for sure is better. But then as soon as something better than that came along, I would dump the aforementioned one and adopt the new one and continue moving at that pace because I never wanted Triarchy to be responsible for making future garbage. And in the fashion industry, I so often will look at new drops, new collections, new things, and I'm like, well, that's just future garbage. It's chasing trend. It's made out of irresponsible materials. And so what this means is someone will buy it and love it immediately, hate it in 3 months, and can't responsibly discard of it. So future garbage. And so it made it really easy for our design lens, when we're putting a new collection together and I'm doing stuff, and then we get into what does this actually look like to make this? And if it ever leans towards future garbage, it's off the wall. It's not a conversation. It's not, oh, but it's so great. We really should do it. It's like, no, that's not happening here. We just gone, gone, gone. And so often we'll bring collections to market that are much smaller than other brands because what we're doing is enough and it's responsible and it's still beautiful and we're not creating future garbage. And so again, I ask, did I answer your question? I don't know. But
You did a great job answering the question, and there's so many points that I want to come back to and follow-up questions. One thing I did want to ask, though, you mentioned kind of starting the business one day and really kind of taking a pivot or revamping to another as you progressed and kind of continuing to innovate there. I imagine in that case, customer profile of who you were first going after could be different than after the pivot when you're producing a product that is more sustainably focused. Maybe it's got a slightly higher price point, it's a different customer profile. So
Mhm.
once you had that sustainability kind of focus and vision for the company, what was it like going out to find those initial customers and supporters of the brand?
This is a great question because of the time in which you're asking it. And, the important thing to preface the answer with is this. I believe most everyone cares about sustainability and cares about all of the things we're doing. But a lot of the time, sustainability is an affluent conversation. The technologies are expensive, especially when other brands don't adopt them. So a lot of the time, our hardest pressure point when creating a new collection is making sure that it's not going to cost so much that people can't even afford it, because then we're not even having a conversation. So it actually became less about let's find the customer and it became let's find the partners who are willing to implement all these technologies without huge premiums so that we can bring them to market and have these conversations and have people be able to buy the jeans because they love them, because they're fashion forward and they're cute. Oh, by the way, look at all of these additional benefits that come with that pair of jeans. And so it really was more of a like a B2B strategy,
Yep.
and it still is, because so much of what we do, we are the first to do it. So you can imagine how expensive things like plastic free stretch are. And if you were to just adopt them at the cost they should be at, it's a lot. And there is a market for $500 jeans, but I don't really want to sell $500 jeans. I'd rather sell a
Absolutely.
$250 jean that people can actually buy and wear and see the story and share the story. And
You touched on the fact early on that, when people see denim, they think of, oh, this easy breezy fashion choice. There's so much behind the scenes that people likely aren't aware of, including kind of the crude oil production and how plastic even gets incorporated into a pair of pants. So maybe you can walk us through a little bit more like, what is the industry currently doing and how are you
love to.
guys taking such a different approach to it?
Let's start here. Most of the jeans that consumers interact with on a day-to-day basis in 2026 resemble in their DNA a plastic bag more than they do a pair of vintage jeans. People think, oh, look at this wash. This is so California. It's so amazing. And it's like, yeah, that's a plastic bag. You're wearing plastic. A big portion of that fabric's composition is plastic. Plastic means crude oil. So that means black oil that comes out of the earth that we process forever. and then manipulate to turn into plastic fibers and then put it into the fabrics. And then as we wear that garment, it'll shed microplastics onto us and in our washing and into our waterways throughout its life until we beat it to death. It loses all its stretch, and then behold, future garbage. So unfortunately, the consumer has gotten so accustomed to the comfort that comes with stretch, and
Mhm.
rightfully so, because it is comfortable and it's a lot more it's a lot easier to put on a pair of stretch jeans because we all fluctuate in size and different temperatures like this heat wave. And so obviously we want the comfort, and the consumer's been conditioned to expect it. But the amount of plastic, when I walk into a big store and I look at the denim wall, I'm like literally all plastic. And I have that lens now. So, our brand ask is, how much plastic are you wearing? It doesn't become troubling that we have become accustomed to wanting comfort. That's not a weird thing. What's become troubling is that we found an easy way to do it with crude oil based plastics, and everyone just seems to be fine with that. And so I don't see brands doing nearly enough to innovate, to find new ways forward. Like I said, we did bring to market the world's first plastic free stretch denim. We are still the only brand using it.
Mhm.
Other brands could, but it's like, yeah, but that works. And we are not a brand of, yeah, but that works. We are a brand of, yeah, but let's do it better. And so I can't sit and just be like, yeah, well, let's just do a couple pairs of plastic stretch. Like, then no, then let's do a couple pairs of wider leg rigids that are going to be very comfortable without the stretch. There's always a way to do it. And also keep in mind, what, 30, 40 years ago, before these fibers and these materials were invented, everyone was doing okay without stretch.
Yeah.
Like, no one was dying because their clothes was rigid, you know, I think. But I'm pretty sure that that wasn't a cause of death. So the point is like, in this day and age, and with the money that's available in fashion, the innovation should be way farther than it is, or the simple adoption of the innovation that already is available to us should be way farther. But I don't see that.
Absolutely. It's a really interesting conversation. I think particularly over the last few years, there's been a good realization of how much, for example, food has changed over the last 40 years,
Mhm.
but perhaps not enough conversation around fashion. And I think to your point, like uh, jeans in particular have changed a lot over the last 40 years, but people might not know in which ways other than, hey, they
Mhm.
feel more comfortable. And so having a good awareness around that is important because I do think for most people, if they do know there's a better way and there's a product on the market that is better for the environment, many will be more inclined to pursue that option, even if it comes at
Definitely.
a slightly higher cost. So would love to hear a little bit as well about the market opportunity that you see for Triarchy kind of in this space, being that you're innovating, you're the only company on the market with this plastic free stretch. So yeah, what is that market opportunity that exists for the company here?
I'll answer that by just reflecting back really quickly on something you said in relation to the food industry and the fashion industry, and the conversation turning that took place with food, with organics and fresher and less fast food and everything. That is how I look at the fashion industry. You have fast fashion, you have slow fashion. We're obviously in the slow fashion bucket, but it, to lean on that, when I was trying to figure out how to communicate what we do to the consumer, I took the nutrition label that is seen on all food packaging and I repurposed it for denim. And I changed
Brilliant.
all of the line items and statistics and stuff to reflect what goes into our jeans. So on the back of every pair of jeans, on the pocket flasher when you're in the store, that's the first thing you see. And it's nice because we all know what a food nutrition label
Yeah.
looks like. So when you see that, you register it as, I know what that is. And then you can just read very quickly and easily that we use organic cotton, that we use extreme low water washes, that we don't use chemicals. And so you can just go like, oh, it just allows you the opportunity at the point of touch and on the shop floor to just think a little bit about this. Like, why are we shouting about this? Because the way in which we make this product is so different. And then when the customer registers that, you definitely see the desire to buy. because it's not about marketing to you because I paid some celebrity to wear the pants and now this is cool. Even though this is the fashion industry and I understand we have to play the game that we are in, and I'll leave it at that. But the other point is that a lot of times any brand can say whatever they want because no one's policing it, right? So
Hmm.
it became very clear to me that we needed full transparency and a third party auditor to give the customer the confidence in supporting the brand and the products we make. And so we brought on a third party auditor to vet all of our practices and everything that comes out of my mouth and then publish it independently of us after verifying its truth. And so every single garment that Triarchy makes has a unique QR code inside of it that is unique per that garment. It's not a brand QR code. It's literally for that pair of jeans. You can take out your phone, you can scan it, and it'll take you to that third party auditor's platform where you can see all of the statistics about what went into making that garment, where the cotton was grown, where we cut and sewed the garment, the carbon offset projects we donate to make it carbon neutral. You can download the organic cotton certificate if you want to. We plant a tree for every pair that's also visible through that. And so it really gives you this snapshot with a photo of that style. And it shows you all of the things we do, not just one, two, three, like laundry list of things that is truly delivering the cleanest pair of jeans that has ever been delivered into your hands, but verified by a third party auditor. So the market opportunity in being able to stand behind everything we do and have it verified and proven, and which honestly is why I get invited to come to the United Nations and present these technologies at the annual general meeting in fashion and lifestyles because we do the work, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a career highlight for me. That was a huge deal going and doing that. But it was also just a really nice moment of being like, it's it's incredible that we're being seen and that it's being appreciated because it's a lot of work, you know? And I honestly don't see other people doing it. And I wish they
Yeah.
would.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on what you guys have achieved so far. And I think just for the marketing strategy of that, like brilliant having a nutrition label reflect what's actually in your clothes. It's a format that everyone can understand. And I think coming back to the food industry quickly, like there are more and more grocery stores, for example, popping up with actual food traceability, right? Where you can see, hey, what
Yeah.
farm it came from, what your carbon impact is. So the fact that you guys are able to do that in such a clear way with fashion is really fascinating. Scan a QR code, learn everything you need to, third party auditor. I think that's fantastic. So
Thanks.
really love to see what you guys are doing. I know for yourself, you're out in LA. You've got a founder in Vancouver, founder in Toronto. Are you guys currently selling across all of North America? Like perhaps you can walk me through what markets you're in right now and what markets you'd like to move into.
Yeah, we are North American based. The majority of the business is in the US. Holt Renfrew was one of the earliest partners we had as a brand and in Canada. They're the most supportive larger store that I've ever worked with the H project and everything that their team does there. It's just wonderful because they take the time and they highlight so much of what I'm talking about on the floor. But North America is the focus. We did start selling in Harrods in London, which was huge and incredible. And obviously it's Harrods, which is great. But the reality is that you have to support individual markets so robustly. And so opening Harrods isn't just as simple as opening Harrods and walking away. Like you have to be boots on the ground in London's. And so really for a company of our size, it was a choice between do we pull focus away from a market that we have been building, which is the US and Canada? And are we perhaps looking across the pond a little too quickly? And the answer to that was yes. So we haven't expanded further on the other side because I think North America. It's where we're based. It's what we know. It's where
Yeah.
we're from. We have a lot of amazing support here, and so that really is the focus. Is the U.S. and Canada.
Makes sense. I think as you highlighted earlier, there's a big difference between fast fashion and slow fashion. And, if you're doing a smaller lineup per product item that you have, focusing more on sustainability, it makes sense to build greater depth in a single market or two than trying to spread yourself too
Definitely.
thin across multiple markets. And I think that ultimately for any business is a more sustainable growth strategy moving forward, and one that likely aligns better with the values of the company too, which is great to see.
Which is a really good point because another thing that I talk about a lot lately is this sort of growth at all costs model. And I get it, it's business and we have to make a return and stuff, but I do believe there is a happy medium that can be played that will build you a business with a much longer trajectory, and a much longer lifespan. What is it? The faster you rise, the faster you fall. And I just
Sure.
think that in so much of what we're doing and laying the groundwork and testing new technologies and bringing things to market with so much intention and so much mindfulness, like the cadence of the business has to follow it similarly. And there is room for that to take place and there is room for that to succeed.
Absolutely. I wish more companies reflected on that, but I totally agree. I think, the idea nowadays to even consider the triple bottom line, right? It's not solely profit, it's people, and it's the planet. And,
Mhm.
we should be prioritizing all of those different groups. So definitely a key consideration there. And I think that makes for a good, sustainable, durable business over time as well, which is great to
Couldn't
see.
agree more.
I do want to touch on now a little bit more about your product line. We haven't got into that yet in a ton of detail, but I know you talked about earlier, rather than the stretch, let's focus on like a wide leg that doesn't need it. So maybe you can walk us through a little bit on what that product lineup looks like, how many SKUs you guys have, as well as touching on for those investors who are listening, ultimately, like how the business makes money across those different product lines that you have.
Yeah, our sales team identified a really nice positioning for us in the earlier years where obviously the denim industry is a very saturated one. And so going to market with more fashion forward denim opened a lot of doors for us. And so really, we go to market 4 times a year with a collection that obviously the core styles stay the same, but we do introduce a lot of fashion. So sometimes even when I'm looking at the rack and when we're shooting the collections and stuff, I really do feel as though Triarchy is a fashion brand that just happens to make everything in denim because a lot of it is just that. And if things are hits, we bring them back. So it's like a testing ground. Like we release stuff and we see what hits and what doesn't. And then if something's really doing well, then we'll bring it over to core. It's been this sort of nice, organic, flowy situation when we figure out the SKU count and the collection sizes and things like that. But of course, I talked about the future garbage thing. That's
Yeah.
first and foremost when it on the brand lens. But then, really, in order to achieve no future garbage, you can't be chasing trend. And fashion is such a beast when it comes to chasing trend. But I really believe that we are in a unique and beautiful category within fashion where we do not have to fall victim to chasing trend because denim is 24/7, 365. Pretty much any fit or wash that you want to wear, depending on where you are, is going to be totally acceptable. I mean, on the West Coast, I think we're a lot easier to throw on any pair of jeans whenever you want. It's funny because when we talk seasonality and stuff, I think last week, our sales team is in New York and one of them mentioned, oh, yeah, but we're not going to show shorts for fall. And I'm like, well, why the hell not? I mean, fall on the West Coast, like everyone's wearing shorts.
True.
But because in denim, and so it's such a beautiful thing. And honestly, from a business perspective, there's been a lot of times where something doesn't move in a certain season and we'll pull it down and just reshoot it and reintroduce it. What other category in fashion allows you to do that? Not many.
Yeah.
But denim is an evergreen product. So it just in what it is itself, it demands to not chase trends. It demands to not fall victim to the cycle of this industry. And so I respect that.
Makes total sense. I know you mentioned earlier as well that you really in the beginning started by kind of finding trusted partners. You've got great B2B relationships. I believe it was Holt Renfrew you mentioned that you guys sell through. Is there also a direct line to the consumer? Do you guys do
Oh
D2C
yeah,
as
no,
well,
for
kind of
sure.
through the website? Maybe you can walk us through what that breakdown looks like.
Yeah, our dependence really has largely been on wholesale.
Yeah.
Because as a smaller brand starting out, it's obvious, if you can, the first store that ever picked us up was Bergdorf Goodman in New York, which was incredible. So obviously you want to lean on those relationships and tell the story together. And small brands don't have the marketing dollars to just be direct to consumer. So we built a lot of really strong wholesale partnerships that really did take up the majority of our output. But as of about 6 months ago, we really have changed focus and we are wanting to put a lot more into direct to consumer
Fine.
for a few reasons. One, I think there's been an obvious instability in wholesale in recent months across the Bay and Saks and things like that. So but I also really love how we can talk to the consumer directly. And when we have a story as unique as ours and as awesome as ours, I love to be able to just tell it directly because
Yeah.
so much gets lost by the time it ends up on the shop floor to no fault of anyone, really. I mean, if you're on a denim floor with 20 other brands and there's two people working that floor, you really expect them to be like, and Triarchy. Like, are you kidding me? By the time 3 p.m. rolls around and they're like, I don't know, like, what kind of jeans do you want?
Yeah.
And that's fair. So I love being able to tell this story clearly because I haven't stopped talking since we started. But um, direct to consumer is a big focus for us. It's a big part of this raise. It's is being able to dedicate funds into telling the story directly because the technology we have coming next. When we brought plastic free stretch to market, to me, that was the peak of our sustainability mountain that we've been climbing
Mhm.
since we retooled and relaunched the brand. And then all of a sudden, this new technology came to us, and now I'm looking at the peak of another mountain that I didn't even know was there because it was in fog. So this is important storytelling. It's so important, and it needs to be told, and it needs to be told correctly. And at the end of the day, really, like I think really what I love most about my job is telling the stories.
No, that makes sense. And I think particularly for you guys, if you do take that approach of like, hey, we're doing a collection, we're doing, releases a few times a year, it's hard to often convey that in like a department store environment where to your point,
Yeah.
you're in the same section as 25 other brands, and then you do get a comparison. Oh, this is a darker blue, this is a lighter blue. What do I feel like? Whereas if you're speaking directly to the consumer and they're purchasing through you, they likely have a lot more of that background and the context going into their decision making when they're making their purchase as well, which is great.
Definitely.
So can definitely see that being an avenue for growth for you guys in the future as you expand that line of business a little bit more there. But I did also want to touch on you mentioned the fact that you were invited to the UN earlier in our conversations, which is incredible. Congratulations being able to speak on that.
Thanks.
And I know there's also some great information on your campaign page, testimonials, the fact that you guys were covered in both Vogue and Forbes, which is incredibly interesting. Very diverse coverage there. Maybe you can walk us through just some of the traction that the brand has seen so far. Like you guys are doing something so incredibly different. I imagine people are taking notes. So, what does that really look like for the company over the years?
Yeah. You know, I, it was always a personal goal of mine to be mentioned in Vogue. Um, and we have been so many times now that when I get it from the press team and I get a thing and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then I'm like back to my day. I'm like, this used to be like, stop everything.
Celebrate
Like
that.
this
Yeah.
happened. And there was one of our team members is really good about making sure we do stop to celebrate. She's like, wait a minute, stop. This is something where a few years ago we would have really been shouting about it and now we're too busy. Like, no, 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 no. Everyone like close your laptop. Like this is awesome. So, you know, every amazing publication that I ever would have dreamed. What's that quote? It's like, I don't remember. I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's that thing that says like the things. I don't even know how to paraphrase it. The point I'm trying to make is that so much happens on a daily basis that would have been a wild dream of mine 10 years ago.
Yes.
And so I appreciate even this moment to stop and reflect on it because it is a big deal. I actually have one of the first newspaper clippings we ever had framed right over there. That must have
Wow.
been 10 years ago by now. And then that same publication did another thing on us about a month ago. And I'm gonna frame it and put it right under that one because it's like a bookend. Um, but yeah, the traction and the response in the media, I think in the same way in which I was saying about, this is blue and this is darker blue, I think a lot of the times with press, like when we send them something, they're like, oh, well, this is amazing. Like there's something to write
Yeah.
about here. It's not like, well, this is blue and this is darker blue, which I think a lot of the time is probably what gets written. So I think that it's probably appreciated that we're bringing them incredible stories. The initiative that I spoke about at the United Nations was that the the plastic free stretch, which uses natural rubber in place of crude oil based plastic. When the soil tests were being done on decomposition, third party, they were discovering that the shredded plastic free stretch denim was actually contributing to soil health as it was decomposing.
Wow.
And so when we got those results back, we teamed up with a farm, Quinto Sapore, and the denim mill, Candiani, and us to use the shredded denim as compost to grow a crop of tomatoes. And so
Wow.
we grew the tomatoes, turned them into tomato sauce, and then served that as dinner at the Green Carpet Fashion Awards during the Oscars 2 years ago now. And so that was the initiative that really showed full circularity from a stretch fabric to a food product served as dinner at the Green Carpet Fashion Awards. And I mean, I never thought when we redid Triarchy to be a vehicle for sustainability, which I hate that word, by the way, which is why I use responsibility. But the fact that we would be able to, serve Donatella Versace and Zendaya a bowl of spaghetti with tomato sauce made from shredded Triarchy jeans was like pretty cool. So
Pretty
the
incredible story.
storytelling, it's a good
Wow.
one. It's a good one. And I have 2 bottles of that tomato sauce left. I'm saving them for something. I don't know what, but
Wow. No,
when
that's
we close the
amazing.
Rays, I'll make a big pasta.
Incredible. And yeah, for those who are listening at the time that we're recording this, the Oscars actually just finished. So very timely tying that in.
Timely,
But
timely story.
what an incredible thing to say that you have been able to grow tomatoes from shredded jeans, which turned into a pasta sauce that you served at the Oscars. Just absolutely incredible from start to finish. Wow.
It's cool. That's not lost on me.
For sure. But taking a moment, you mentioned, the importance of stopping to reflect. Would love to hear a little bit more about yourself, really, as a leader of a company that's growing, doing something incredibly innovative. Obviously, your leadership plays a pivotal role in the company's vision and how you move forward. So, would love to hear a little bit more about your philosophy on leadership and how you kind of bring a sense of inspiration and motivation to your team.
I think that the only thing I can really do is show up. And the way in which I show up is going to amplify or not in the reflections of everyone around me. I learned a while ago that my reaction creates my reality. I think that's probably the number one thing that navigates me through my life is your reactions create your reality. And so if anything comes up, whatever it is, I'm not in control of that. So what I am in control of is my reaction to any of that stimulus. So I don't want any of my life to be unenjoyable. So when anything comes up, I choose not to react in a negative way. And I think so often the fashion industry is very calendar oriented and everything is late and everything's a panic. And I remember the first few years where we were freaking out all the time about everything. And it was like, we are not surgeons. We are not saving lives. This is pants. Okay. So I will no longer be impacting the quality of my
Yeah.
life or anyone else's life negatively for pants. That's not happening. And so really, I think the one thing that I think of when you ask me that is there is so much laughter in this team. We enjoy each other's company so much. We laugh so much. And the last few years with everything going on in the world, like there's been so many ups and downs, and like you could easily just wear it all on your shoulders. And what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Like, so I think really just owning my reactions 24/7 and making sure that I honestly couldn't tell you the last time I raised my voice. I have no idea when that would have been. I probably could think of it. But it's actually difficult for me. I'm sitting here, I'm like,
Yeah.
I really don't know when the last time I actually raised my voice was. I have no idea because that's not happening in my experience of life. And so it doesn't happen in front of anyone on the team. And it's not like I'm saving it for later. It's just not a thing. And so I think as far as leadership goes, I mean, I'm a reflection of everyone around me and vice versa. And I just think we've all found a very unique group of wonderful people that genuinely believe in what we're doing. And that's just so evident in the way we all show up and also in the way that, so many times we'll get emails from people that we work with from logistics and photography and stuff. Like, God, you guys are so nice. Like, it must be the Canadian, but also it's just, shouldn't that be everyone's baseline? You know?
Absolutely.
So it's that really.
No, that's so important. I think the old idea that, in business you need to be cutthroat to get ahead, I just don't believe in that at all.
I don't either. And I'm not interested in cutting anyone's throat, and I don't want to have my throat cut. So, like, no,
Yeah, it goes so much further just to be nice and kind. And I think yeah, inherently as a Canadian, maybe some of that does come culturally. But
no
yeah, it's
question.
so important when you're out in the market. And I love the perspective that you have too. When you're a startup or growth stage company, whether it's funding or signing new contracts, everything comes across as life or death and is so stressful. But to your point, you're not a surgeon in the operating room. You
Mm-mm.
will live to see tomorrow. Everything is good. So I think bringing that perspective into things is definitely important there, for sure. So can appreciate that. And yeah, to your point, nothing better than being able to laugh with your team and, that everyone enjoys each other's company. It's definitely
The
part of
team
building a good
is
culture.
triarchy. It's
Yeah.
it's what this is. Of course we make jeans, but it's the team that makes the magic happen.
Absolutely. Now, next question I want to ask you is one of my favorites, and I feel like you've already told some pretty incredible stories so far. So we'll see if there's anything new here. But I always love to hear just if there's been a favorite kind of standout moment along the road so far, like anything that either was maybe a turning point for the company or just kind of a favorite milestone, maybe with the team, or just yeah, an exceptional moment that stands out in your mind.
The two aforementioned that I've said
Yeah.
was when we got really the first major order that the brand got from Bergdorf Goodman, which is the, quintessential luxury department store in North America and the world, really. There's a few in the world that would, share that title, but that was huge. From a design, as a designer and a business owner, that was a pretty huge moment for me. And then, of course, being invited to speak at the UN was another one. Um, Another that just came to mind is actually through the UN. I was asked to go and give a lecture at Polymoda in Florence, the fashion university. And I think I hadn't really been in a university lecture hall since I went to UBC. And being in such a storied facility as that in Florence, and that was pretty special. But honestly, it's really the moments to highlight are the fact that I get to work with my family.
Hmm.
like my brother and sister. And then I also my brother married my best friend from high school,
Oh, wow, what a small
and
world.
she's our her and my brother are combined CFOs. So we all work together. And that is never lost on me that I have such a close personal and working relationship with my sister, with my brother, with my sister-in-law, the team that has become family. Like it's those like small moments that just feed my soul. All that big stuff is awesome, of course, but it's really like as cheesy as it sounds when I think about it. It's like it's all that little stuff. It's all that daily
Hmm.
stuff. It's the team meetings, it's the calls, it's the laughs. It's like even when, Charlotte and Marissa, who lead the sales team, who were in New York, like every conversation I have with them is just such a lovely breath of fresh air. I just adore this team so much. And I mean, that to me is the biggest highlight. Well, the rest is awesome
Absolutely.
too.
No, I think being able to appreciate all the kind of small things and how they build the collective experience there is definitely an important perspective to have. And you've actually written a book about mindfulness, which inspired your journey with Triarchy. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and kind of how that's guided you so far.
Yeah, so when the pandemic struck, I I ended up spending the entire thing sequestered away in the desert with my dog, Frenchie. And there had been an idea for a book brewing, for years. And it just kind of a few months in, I was like, I don't know how long we're going to be here for, but I feel like this is a pretty opportune moment
Hmm.
to put pen to paper and see if you even can manage this. And so I just made a very simple guideline promise to myself that I would spend every weekend writing. And I was like, I don't know what this will glean, but let's just do it. And then, of course, as we know, 1 month turned to two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, and it just kept going. So by a year, I had a draft of a book. It's called Setting an Intention: 11 Brief Lessons on Achieving Your Greater Good. And it really came from I have all these random life hacks that have made an impact on me that I have implemented,
Hmm.
that then I share on with people. And I think the feedback was always like, you should write this down. And so I put it in one place that can be referred to sort of in one
Yeah.
sitting or in, however you want to tackle it. But it's basically 11 chapters. Each chapter deals with a different thing. And then the other half of each chapter is sort of a hero's journey up the side of a pyramid. And then when you reach the 11th level, you're at the top of the pyramid. The pyramid analogy, because the idea for the book came when I was at the Great Pyramid in Giza. And that's actually the introduction in the book, is that story. But it so much of it leans into how we operate triarchy, and I don't really know if that was an intention of the, but
Hmm.
like a big part of everything we've been talking about is intention and mindfulness in how you build a business. And something that I love sharing and that's in the book, which is the 5 minute rule, which is something I share when it comes to consumerism, is that our brains are pretty predictable computers. Well, the parts of them we use anyway. We won't get into non-local consciousness today. That might be too much. But when I'm shopping in real time or online, and there's something that I like or that I need or want, I'll put it in the cart or I'll put it down in real life and I'll walk away for 5 minutes and I'll let the dopamine pass, and then I'll come back to finish the transaction. And 9 out of 10 times, I will not transact on what I was going to buy because what was happening was a chemical reaction in my brain. It wasn't actually, and so when you give yourself that pause and you allow the chemical reaction to move through you, and then you sit and realize, like, oh, I don't actually want this. I definitely don't need it. You end up with a life of fewer better things that
Hmm.
last way longer. than all the stuff you could be consuming on a day-to-day basis. And for that one or two out of 10 times where you go back and you still want it, great. Then you're going to love it so much more because you gave yourself that pause to go, actually, yes. And every single time that I go back and say, no, yeah, definitely, it always turns into something that I love and that I cherish and that I, respect and treat well. And when I read the statistics about, most clothing bought in the United States is worn 5 times and discarded, it might be more or less than five, but it's something ridiculous like
Yeah.
that. I'm always like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
This t-shirt has been done to death, but I loved it when I bought it and I'm still wearing it for that reason. Like, this disposable culture and the way we're all being
Yes.
conditioned to consume at such a rampant pace, it's like, if you do not check yourself and if you do not give yourself this pause, like, I honestly don't know what chance we have. Because this is what I said earlier, so much of this is not malicious. It's just we're being conditioned to consume at a pace that is psychotic. And so, but if people aren't awake and if they're not giving themselves moments to just be like, wait a minute, then you're just consuming, consuming, consuming. And I can't be a part of that engine. Personally, as a consumer or as a creator. And that comes into play on the design wall too. We'll put everything up and then we'll be like, wait a minute though. Do we need to be doing this? Let's let the dopamine of that pass and make a decision too. So really you can apply it to a lot more than just how you shop on Amazon. You can also apply it to what you're creating, to what you're putting out into to the world, to food, to everything. Um,
Yeah.
it's a hard one at the grocery store, though, that's for sure. But it's possible.
You hear the trick at the grocery stores is to always shop the outside aisles. And if you're
Mm,
buying quickly, at least it's the healthy stuff. But no, I totally agree. I think the consumer behavior standpoint, it is really that instant gratification now that a lot of people look for, and
yeah,
they're not necessarily buying a product that's going to last them over time. And really, that is something to be mindful of. I know for myself, I always like when I'm out and I see something I like, take a picture of it. If I come back to it later and decide that, hey, it's
love that.
something that I want,
Love
I've
that.
got it there, I can go do it. But don't necessarily need to buy it on the spot, right? Like take a moment, take a
Yeah,
pause, think about it, and can always come back to it
love
later.
that.
Yeah, but I think that's a great philosophy, and I think in general, like your background being in Florence, talking with the UN, Egypt, Oscars night, maybe there's a biography coming at some point about this incredible journey you've been on.
Yeah, maybe. I am actually, I did start working on my second book this year, which I'm really excited about.
Oh wow.
But it's not that. That'll come
Okay,
later.
maybe one day. But shifting our focus a little bit back to the capital raise, you're currently raising on FrontFundr. Would love to hear a little bit more about the round in general, what your goals are, and also why being able to bring this investment opportunity to the community was something important for the organization as well.
Yeah, I think we had looked into raising for quite a while. It was always a matter of, how much can we, because we're a family business. We've never taken outside investment. We've always managed to continue with a very nice, steady growth with how we run the business. But of course, it becomes obvious that you can only go so far until you bring on investment and you start scaling in different ways. But a lot of what you know how many conversations I've had in the VC world, it really, so much of those conversations are in the overconsumptive mindset. And so much of it is just like, okay, cool, like we'll take this, we'll move it to China, we'll do the blah 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 blah, and we'll
Mm.
like move. And I'm just like, wait a minute, like it's really hard for me to not take a $2 million check right now because can I just have it anyway? But like what is attached to that is just like it goes back to day one of like, sorry, is my ambition to occupy some horrible consumptive factory where like everything sucks? Cool. Like that's not an ambition, and there must be a better way. And really, the better way came through you all. And just in the few short days that we've been live and that I see these investments coming in every day, it's funny because, you know, I think it's quite common to look at investment like a $2 million check. Like there's the
Yeah.
check, and now the investment, we sign the contract. But this has been such a different experience because I'll look at the back end and I'll see the investments that come in every day, and I'll notice like people that I've never personally spoken to, that I've
Hmm.
never personally met, that have come across the FrontFundr, that have watched the video, read all the information, and been like, I really love what these guys are doing. I would love to put my money behind them. And to me, that has been like, I talk about it with the team every day. I'm like, oh my God, look at this. Look at these wonderful people. Like, this is it feels so meaningful and supportive and real. And it's just, that's something because you're head down, you're trying to get the campaign ready, you're doing all the things, you're running the business, it's all. But now that it's just been like a second and you have a moment to breathe and you look at all of it coming in, it's like, wow, look at this wonderful community of people that do believe in what we're doing. And so often when you're going the traditional investment route, it's like, is anyone listening?
Absolutely. I think to your point, the traditional route, they may not see the vision the same way. They may force you to compromise what your beliefs are to deliver perhaps a profit or a benefit that they see as greater value over than what you guys are doing. So, bringing on all these small investors who support the vision, support the long-term goal, and hopefully end up becoming customers and brand advocates of the company in the future can be so
Means the
impactful for
world.
businesses that they grow. Absolutely. Well, I know we're coming up on time here. I do want to try and get into quick final questions if you have a moment. First one just being, you've touched on so many kind of great lessons throughout this episode, but any advice that's kind of guided you along your entrepreneurial journey so far that you could perhaps share with an up and coming entrepreneur?
I have to repeat the one from it's your reaction creates your reality. I swear, if that's the only thing you ever adopted into your life from personal to business, it would change everything. Everything.
Absolutely.
Everything. Like because it's the most empowering piece of wisdom that I've ever come across. Because it's like, I'm in control of my life. And that doesn't mean that I'm in control of what comes at me, because you will never be in control of that ever, ever, ever. So don't even worry about it. But I am in complete control of my experience of life through my reactions. And that is the most empowering and beautiful and calming piece of wisdom I have ever heard. And I love it. And I just think it's for business, for personal, for relationships, just your reaction. Just check your reaction and make sure it's dialed
Absolutely.
into something that makes your nervous system feel good. And then all of your interactions with people that you work with and people that you sell your products to or people that you buy products from are just nice.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
fantastic advice. Last question for you here, just as we're wrapping up. If you could leave investors with three things to take away about your company, what would they be?
Family owned and operated since day
Hmm.
one to date until now, which I think is very special and unique. Um, we are genuinely invested in changing the denim industry. We do not implement something like plastic free stretch and then do a bunch of other bad stuff and not talk
Yeah,
about that and just sit here talking about the plastic free stretch. That is not something we do. And the thing we haven't even touched on is that next peak on that mountain that is coming. And, we are about to be the first denim brand in the world to bring to market digitally dyed denim, which essentially means we have the ability to print a pair of jeans onto denim fabric using algae-based low water dyes. And the
wow.
result is a pair of jeans that looks identical to jeans that you would have seen your whole life. And none of the wasteful practices that get you to that jean are present. From a sustainability standpoint, it's like I said, it's a higher peak on a different mountain. But even from a business standpoint, so much of what fashion brands have to do is overcut product
Yeah.
because, Neiman Marcus orders this many, but the factory needs you to make this many. So you got to cut this many. And then it's just, and think about that from every fashion brand, which is the amount of overproduction is just, it's mind boggling. And so from a sustainability standpoint, this technology, it blows my mind daily. But from an actual standpoint of like being able to run a business by not spending money over cutting products you don't need. And then all of the other, the fact that you can do local production because it's all being printed on demand and it's all, the future is like, it's incredible. And so we are so invested in as soon as we see something that is newer and we've done our homework and it actually has the ability to keep moving this change forward, we adopt it wholeheartedly. And Triarchy will be the first brand to market. We just showed it in New York. The collection is done. It's crazy. It's so incredible. And then last but certainly not least, I'm always the one up here talking, but the team is 90% women. Like besides me and my brother, everyone involved in Triarchy is a woman. And this team of just incredible women that I get to be surrounded with all the time. And I've touched on this many times, like that, the sustainability peaks, all the amazing stuff we do, great. UN, of course, like, wow. But the team of just beautiful, hardworking, intelligent, hilarious women that I have the honor of spending so much of my life with is everything. And I love them.
Well, I think that's a fantastic way to conclude the episode. A great kind of final few points to leave investors with. And I think not only are you already doing incredibly innovative things in the industry, but the fact that there's more upcoming is just incredibly exciting. So definitely recommend that investors stay tuned. You can learn more at frontfundr.com/triarchy. There is a great video on the campaign page as well that highlights more about the responsible denim approach. There's some fantastic perks available on the campaign page as well. And definitely recommend you follow for updates because it sounds like there's some very exciting developments coming up next. And
in that
Adam,
video
I'll
on
throw it to you.
FrontFundr, in the FrontFundr video, you can see some of what I've just talked about with the digital dyeing.
That's amazing. Well, Adam, thank you so much for being here today. It's been fantastic learning more about your incredible story and what you've been able to do with Triarchy. So really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
If you're new to the podcast, FrontFundr is Canada's leading equity crowdfunding platform, making it possible for everyday Canadians to invest in innovative startups and growth stage companies, an opportunity that was once reserved for only a select few. If you enjoyed today's conversations, you can explore our previous episodes. We featured some incredible guests, each with a story worth hearing. To never miss an episode, subscribe to From Funding to Fame on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. For the latest on investment opportunities and updates from FrontFundr, be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter. All links can be found in the caption. This podcast episode is provided for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment or financial advice. Investing in private companies involves risk, and listeners should conduct their own due diligence before making any investment decisions. For full details on any offering listed on FrontFundr, please review the offering documentation available on the campaign page at frontfundr.com.